What's up, everybody? Nate here. So President Joe Biden is about to make a massive proposal to Congress regarding new taxes. President Joe Biden has been pretty active as far as taxes go since he became president. He wanted to increase the capital gains tax all the way up to nearly 40%, and he wants to impose brand new taxes on anyone making over $400,000 a year in the United States, because in his mind, that is the top 1% in our country. And this week, President Joe Biden is set to make a brand new proposal regarding taxes to Congress. This brand new proposal would essentially bring a 20% minimum to any house in the United States making over $100 million a year. And people are now calling it the billionaire tax. Mainly because the only ones it would affect are billionaires. So today, I want to talk all about this brand new proposal that Joe Biden wants to send to Congress. I want to talk about what's in it, how that's going to affect our economy and businesses, and more importantly, if it's even going to happen in the first place. But before I get into all of that, do me a quick favor and hit smash or destroy that thumbs up button below and ring that notification bell too. Both of those two things are completely free and they help to show me that you like this video and that you want to see even more just like it. Thank you so much for doing that. And before we continue, you probably noticed that the setup here is a little bit different. That's because this is a brand new studio space for me. Nothing about the channel videos are going to be changing in any way. We'll still be posting 7 videos every single week. But I just kind of thought the channel needed some fresh new changes that I could start making my own personal touches to. So with that being said, if you want to see something crazy behind me or on this desk, be sure to drop in the comments below what you'd like to see before you go. Now let's get back to the news. Joe Biden taxes. Okay, so this new tax from Joe Biden is a part of his 2023 budget proposal. Every single year, the president will give a budget to Congress that they then need to approve, and this new tax proposal is a part of that new budget. Essentially, this is being dubbed the billionaire minimum income tax. In addition, some estimates say that over half of this revenue for the United States could come from households that make over $1 billion a year. According to the document from the White House, this minimum tax would be sure that the wealthiest Americans no longer pay a tax rate lower than teachers and firefighters. In addition, the document also says, as a result, this new minimum tax will eliminate the ability for unrealized income of ultra high net worth households to go untaxed for decades or even generations. Okay, so let's kind of unpack that for a minute. Now, the first thing that you have to note here is that this document says that some of the wealthiest people in the United States pay the littlest taxes, even though they have more money than most Americans. And for the majority of Americans, that just doesn't seem right. But what you've got to understand here is these wealthiest Americans know how to use their money effectively, and more importantly, they know all of the different types of tax loopholes. So it's not that these billionaires and millionaires are completely evading taxes in the United States. They've just found loopholes and ways to avoid it. Some of the ways that they do this is billionaires don't have an income. Your income that you make at your job is the most heavily taxed thing in your life, right next to property taxes and sales tax. So every single dollar that you make, the federal government and your state government is going to take a piece of that. The thing is, these billionaires don't make most of their money from their jobs. In fact, when Jeff Bezos was the CEO of Amazon, he only made around $80,000 per year. And currently, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, previously Facebook, only makes around $1. Wait a second, so then how are they billionaires? They are billionaires because they own assets. So like I said, they are CEOs first and foremost. They are the heads of companies, and being the head of a company comes with a lot of benefits. One of those benefits is stock options. So these CEOs of your top companies in the world are able to collect stocks, which then appreciate in value over time. And if you keep a stock for less than a year, you pay the least amount of taxes on it. And that's only when you sell the asset. If you hold on to it forever, then you don't pay taxes. Now, I will say, billionaires do pay taxes. Like earlier this year, Elon Musk had a huge tax bill come up because of how many shares of Tesla he sold in 2021. It ended up being the largest single tax bill in American history. That doesn't happen a lot though, because billionaires don't spend a lot of the money that they get from assets. They typically hold on to these assets forever and then pass them down from generation to generation. Things like real estate or stocks and commodities, all of these things tend to appreciate in in value over time. And over the last couple of years, they have massively appreciated in value. Like during the pandemic, billionaires ended up increasing their wealth by some estimates of around $3 to $5 trillion. That's almost the same amount that the entire United States government printed in order to bail out regular everyday citizens from the pandemic. That's because the stock market and real estate values all went way up in 2020 and in 2021, and they're pretty much still going up in 2022. Billionaires make money from their assets, but that's not the only thing. They also make money from debt. That's right, if you're an ultra wealthy billionaire, you can actually use debt to make more money than to lose money. Since you are a billionaire, you're able to borrow so much money very cheaply because the bank can literally see that you have billions of dollars worth of assets. If something were to happen and you couldn't pay back a loan, well, that's okay because you have billions of dollars worth of assets. For average everyday Americans, net worths are not that high, sometimes $20, $30, and even $50,000 on average. So if you want to buy a home that's $200,000 and your net worth is only $30,000, well, that's not going to look great to the bank. You are obviously a higher risk, so you're not able to borrow as much, and your interest rate is going to be higher because you're a higher risk. For a billionaire, they don't have that same problem. Their interest rates are lower and they can borrow more. And here's the kicker. You don't pay any taxes on that borrowed money. It's all just spending money at that point. So you can borrow $500 million and then go out and spend it to fund your lifestyle without selling any of your assets. Eventually, you'll have to sell some and you'll pay taxes on that, but the capital gains taxes are way lower than regular income tax. So now you basically understand the general loophole about how billionaires avoid taxes. So how does this new tax proposal from Joe Biden really change anything? Well, it's unclear at this point whether this will be earned income or just income in general. So earned income is obviously money that you make from your job, but income in general can be from anything. It can be from selling an asset. It could be getting a gift from your parents. Literally, if a certain amount of money comes into your bank account during the year, then it's going to count as income, and thus it's going to be taxed. Now, if it's earned income, then that's not really going to make any sort of difference. And to be clear, this isn't an additional tax. So if you are a household that makes $100 million, first of all, hey, how's it going? And second of all, you won't be affected at all by this new proposal. This is only on households that somehow get $100 million worth of income, but don't pay 20% in taxes. This bill would basically force them to pay 20% of that in taxes. So $100 million, that would be $20 million. This is supposedly supposed to bring in around $360 billion worth of revenue for the United States federal government. Money that they kind of need right now because of the trillions upon trillions of dollars they've been printing since the pandemic started. We had so many rescue bills come out and tax credits for everyday Americans that now the federal government is facing massive mile-high inflation. In fact, in February 2022, inflation hit a new over 40-year high of around 7.9%. So even the US is realizing they can't just continue to print more, so they're finding creative ways to get that tax revenue. One of the ways is to tax billionaires. And don't get me wrong, all of this money printing definitely helped the United States over the last 2 years. I mean, the recession of 2020 was the shortest recession in American history. That's all thanks to money printing. However, the long-term effects of money printing are now hurting just about every single person in the United States economy. And it's only created an even bigger wealth gap because when the United States government prints money, the ones who own assets like stocks, bonds, real estate, and commodities tend to buy more because they know the value of every single dollar in an economy is about to go down and lose value because there is so much being printed. That makes the rich richer and the poor even poorer. This new tax bill by Joe Biden would essentially cut the gap a little bit. And of course, it would mean that billionaires are now being forced to pay way more taxes in the United States. And there are still a lot of unanswered questions about this bill. Right now, if a household that makes over over $100 million a year isn't paying a minimum of 20% in taxes from their income, well, then they're going to be faced with a top-up payment. This means that whatever they currently are paying, they will then be bumped up to 20%. So for instance, if they're only paying around 10%, well, then they're going to have to pay an additional 10%. And according to Joe Biden's administration and this new proposal, the United States federal government is expected to collect around $300 billion more in tax revenue this year than they did in 2021. That money isn't coming out of thin air, it's coming from brand new proposals. Which brings us to the last part of this discussion. Is Congress actually going to approve this? So are these new taxes really going to become law? Well, right now it's unlikely to happen, simply because Congress has been against big sweeping tax proposals like this for a long time. In 2021, Joe Biden wanted to increase the capital gains tax all the way up to around 40%. However, that was nowhere near getting off the ground. And a new tax like this is likely to continue in the same direction. And honestly, even if it is passed, I think billionaires will still find a way to get around it. Like I said, the problem and root issues lie in our tax code. And it's all about how you actually get taxed for your income. If you don't have an income, then you can't exactly get taxed on it. Debt isn't an income either. If anybody in the United States was to take out a personal loan right now, then you wouldn't exactly get taxed on that. If we were to change that, then yeah, that would hurt billionaires a lot, but it would also hurt regular everyday Americans and completely change how we see debt in our country. In addition, you can't exactly tax an asset like a stock until it's sold, because you don't know what the value of a stock or another asset is going to be until it's actually sold for something. When you buy it, it's kind of like a hypothetical value. What someone else is willing to pay for it is what it's actually worth. But if that doesn't happen, or the price actually changes a week or a month or a year from now, then that is the new value of that asset. That can't exactly change either, because while that would hurt billionaires, it would also hurt regular everyday Americans when they go to sell their investments and retire. Now, if you've got millions of dollars in the stock market and you're 65 and all of a sudden you have to pay 40% taxes, you are going to get hit, and everything that you worked so hard for is only going to be 60% what you thought it was worth. And honestly, if this bill was to go through, it's really only going to hurt people who make $100 million a year or more. That is a very small percentage of Americans. So basically, the only way that this would go through and have any sort of massive and long-lasting effect is if we change what we mean by income. Is income any money that comes into your bank account, or is income only a certain amount of things? That's really what we're gonna have to think about here. Or are we going to basically start taxing households on what their assets are worth right now? So for instance, if you are an individual who owns $100 million plus in stocks and bonds and real estate and commodities, then you're going to be taxed even if you don't sell them. That's kind of a problem too, because now individuals are being forced to sell parts of their assets in order to meet new tax minimums. And like I said, those assets are technically hypothetical values. So just because they're worth 100 million today doesn't mean they're going to be worth 100 million tomorrow. Typically, they're going to go up in value, but not every stock and not every single asset does this. Some years they're going to go down. So does that mean you're going to be taxed less? What if they're valued at 100 million at the beginning of the year and then only 50 million by the end of the year? What are you going to exactly be taxed on? As you can see, this kind of opens up a can of worms for the United States federal government, and I just don't see how it's going to be possible for them to start taxing people in this way. But regardless of whether it goes through or not, President Joe Biden and his administration want to tax the wealthiest Americans more, and we're definitely going to continue to see even more bills from the White House throughout the rest of his presidency. And next time I get an update, I'll definitely let you all know. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all of the top business and financial news from around the country, our team puts together a free daily newsletter, and you can subscribe to it by clicking the link in this corner right here. And if you want to stay up to date with me and everything else happening in the business and financial world, I'm putting out uploads 7 days a week over here on this channel, and I've actually got another one ready for you right here, so be sure to check that out before you go. That is it for me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.